Hi everyone, hope that you're well today. I'm Duncan Fraser, the founding director of Useful and Kind Unlimited, and this series of videos is helping you to understand our SO model, how to be useful and kind to self, others and the world. And this video in particular is going to focus again in a bit more detail on how we can be useful and kind to others, or in particular, what influences the way we think about other people. We're going to look at the particular messages that we get given when we're little, and some specific messages called drivers and injunctions. And then we're going to use the useful and kind tool as to how to think about relationships and indeed how to improve them. So for those of you who saw the video about attachment, you'll know that we make all kinds of decisions about how we are in the world, how we are with others from our first 2 years in life when we don't have language. What we're going to explore today is how that changes when we get language, how we start to think about other people. So I just invite you to start by thinking about someone you like. Just describe them. What are they like? What do they look like? Come up with some adjectives to describe them. And then just think about how similar they are to you. Are they the same gender or not? Are they the same race or not? The same class and background? Are they a friend? Are they the same sexuality as you? Are they from a similar geographic background? And just pause for a minute and ask yourself, what's attractive about them? What's attractive physically, emotionally? What do you feel when you think about them or you're with them? And intellectually, is there something interesting about the way they think and the way they help you to think? Or is it their behaviour? Is it things they do that you like? Their attitude to things, is that similar to yours? Do they have similar values or similar character? We'll talk more about character in another video. So just hold that person in your heart for a minute and just think about how you are with them and what it is that you really like about them. Now I'm going to invite you to do exactly the same for someone you're not so keen on. Maybe there's a bit of texture in the relationship with them at the moment. And just think about what it is you don't like. Again, is there something physical about that? Emotional? And again, just think about how similar they are to you. Gender, race, class, sexuality, geographic background. And just inquire of yourself what it is that causes that texture in the relationship. Is it something they've done? Is it something you've made a judgment about, you feel you can't forgive? And at this point, I just remind you of that wonderful line of Carl Jung's, which is that everything that irritates us about others can lead to an understanding of ourselves. So that's either because we are what's called projecting things onto them that we don't like about ourselves, and it's much easier to criticize it in them. But it can really help us to understand more the kind of judgments and attachments we're making with people in the world. We are programmed to be useful and kind, to be pro-social, especially to those that you might describe as in group. In other words, like us. We're going to look more at that when we do a video on why we are useful and kind. But it's true to say that the nearer that people are to us, be it initially on the savannah, whether we're related to them or they're in our group or tribe or team or family. So it might be that you just struggle with difference, and we're going to talk about that, especially when we talk about difficult people. There's another very powerful idea that has resonated with me, which is that untreated trauma transmits. That's to say, as you can imagine from the work we've done on attachment, that any problems that there might be there, if unresolved or unhealed, will carry on. Will carry on in your life, will carry on in your relationships. Let's just begin to look at some of the messages that we are given when we're little with language. So it begins with primary caregivers. It then might be other authority figures. It might be teachers. They might be someone older than us at school. But the kind of messages that we get, you might also like to remember what was going on at that meal when you were under 5 that we looked at before. So messages like, don't blow your own trumpet, be polite, be seen and not heard, respect your elders and betters. There's all those kind of mantras that we have. And people give us them, they think, for our own good, but also, as we'll see, it's for their good too. So what I'd invite you to do is just to think a bit more about the kind of messages that you got from authority figures. And in that wonderful bit of psychology called transactional analysis, we might call this the parent ego state. So in other words, we've taken on board the thoughts, feelings and behaviours of those early authority figures, and they gave us messages about how to be in the world, both to look after us, to nurture us, but also messages that we felt were critical and that brought with them a condition of okayness. The way I describe it is that we took the message that we would only be okay, well, sane or lovable if we behaved in a certain way, if we responded in a certain way, if we felt in a certain way. And there's two sets of thoughts that I'd share with you, messages if you like, and the first is called drivers. Again, look them up on the internet, tons of detail about them. But the drivers are messages that we were given that we'd only be okay, well, sane, lovable in the world if we pleased others. So we took these messages for ourselves, but a lot of the messages were about the way we responded to other people, but also invited us to judge other people as to whether they behaved in this way or not, which is, of course, slightly strange because other people had their own messages that they got from their individual caregivers. But the first set of messages is called drivers. And these are very popular with people because once you understand them, it really helps you to get a grip on your own behaviour and to make a powerful choice about whether you still want to continue with these behaviours. And the first is please others. So that strong message that we had to please others, to be okay in the world. Be perfect. There's that sense of if only you're perfect, then you'll be okay. Try hard, work hard, Protestant work ethic. Hurry up, get it done, get it finished, and be strong. So these are very powerful messages that we took for ourselves. But as I say, we might also judge other people then if they're not very pleasing to others, if they are imperfect in some way, as we all are, if they're lazy, if they're rather slow or weak. So those messages come with two layers. Normally, we just think about the messages to us, but we take them in and then use them to make judgments about other people. If we come on to injunctions, those kind of things that were told to us about how to be okay or safe in the world, that often came from our primary caregiver's own anxieties. And there's lots of them. Don't be a child. On the other hand, don't grow up. Don't be, you're too much. Don't be you with your own character. Don't make it. Hide your light. Don't do anything, it's easier. Just be safe. Don't be important, don't get above yourself. Don't belong. Don't be close, it's not safe. Don't be well, if you're ill, I'll look after you. Don't think, that only causes problems. Don't feel, be strong. And I just invite you to maybe pause the video and make a note of those drivers. Please others, be perfect, try hard, hurry up, be strong. And those injunctions, and just jot down which you think you had in your family. Which of those really applies to you? So just pause and make a note of that. And when you've done that, it might be helpful for you to write what's called the counter script. In other words, if you have a please others and a hurry up driver, you might say, I am okay, well, sane and lovable if I'm not constantly pleasing others all the time. Indeed, if I can please myself. Similarly, if I can slow down, if I don't have to do everything at breakneck speed. Now I invite you to go back to the description you made of the person you liked and the person who was causing a bit of texture at the moment. And I just invite you to see which of those drivers and injunctions and messages that you got when you were little are informing your decision about what you feel about those two people. Just see how that plays out for you in those relationships. Is it because they have the same drivers and injunctions? Is it because you're using the drivers' injunctions to make judgments about them? And I invite you just to accept and value all that you've become in spite of these messages, and perhaps because of them. If you have a hurry up driver, you probably get quite a lot done. But also be clear about how you can change them. So there's a lot there to think about. You might want to jot down in a journal, and you might want to use the idea again of sending tender, loving kindness both to yourself, may I be well, happy and free from suffering, to the person that you like, may they be well, happy and free from suffering. And the real power for change for yourself and the world comes when you can offer the difficult person the same compassion and tender, loving care. May they be well, happy and free from suffering. And the task, of course, is to get to the position where you can offer the same tender, loving kindness to yourself, to the person you like, and to the person who's causing you some problems at the moment. May we all be well, happy and free from suffering. Stay well. Thank you for being with me today.